Okay, look, let's switch gears and go back to talking about this tragedy in Washington 24 hours or 36 hours or so ago, which was this Washington, D.C. plane crash, which, of course, killed 67 people, no survivors. Donald Trump has, quite astonishingly, some would say, said at not one but two press conferences, one at the lectern, one sitting signing executive orders in the White House yesterday, that this very possibly is all down to Biden and Obama's policies on DEI hires. Quite an astonishing thing to say, but I think there's some merit to it and there's some logic to it. We're going to talk about that a bit more now with Steve Gill, former advisor to Clinton and Bush administration. Steve, thanks very much for joining us on Talk.
Thanks, Russell. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So let's talk about your reaction, first of all, to what Donald Trump said yesterday. Do you have some sympathy with what he said?
Yeah, and I think we have to assume that he knows a lot more than has been put out publicly at this point. First of all, we know that the Biden administration a year ago was promoting an agenda. The New York Post and others reported it, to hire people that were intellectually and emotionally distraught and incapable. And the idea that, as he was pointing out yesterday, you would put people in the most stressful jobs possible as air traffic controllers who you were recruiting knowing that they had mental and emotional instability, I think is part of the problem. We don't know that that was the issue in this case, but he has raised the question of it could have been, and we need to get more details. And then we look at the military aircraft. There are now reports that one of the pilots may have been a transgender woman who had less than 500
Steve.
hours.
Yeah, I saw that on X also. I mean, lots of stuff flying around, lots of conspiracy theories, I have to say. But yes, one of them is that pilot may have been trans. I mean, does that matter? Does that make any difference in terms of their ability to fly an aircraft?
It may. If she was promoted and put into this high-profile position because of either being a woman, being transgender, or anything else, it would be an issue. If particularly she was not.
Oh, Steve, sorry, I think we're losing you there.
Aircraft may have been
you're back,
twice as high as it was.
Yeah, Steve, sorry, we lost you for a second there. So can you just repeat that? Sorry.
Well, we know that President Trump already has access to more personnel information, both around the air traffic controllers and about this military personnel, which I think is what raised his immediate questions about whether a DEI may have been a factor. Was she put into this position ahead of others that may have been more competent because she was female, because she was trans? We don't know. But again, I think he probably knows more about her record.
Well, and Steve, as I say, we haven't had that confirmed. We don't know that. And I know that the victims are going to start being named in due course, including, no doubt, the name of the military personnel on that helicopter. We're going to go to a clip in a second. Just let me read you a headline from the Daily Mail from last year, which was this, so way before the tragedy of a couple of days ago. It says here, the FAA launches a recruitment campaign for workers with, so the FAA, of course, is the Federal Aviation Authority, so their equivalent of our Civil Aviation Authority. The FAA launches a recruitment campaign for workers with, in inverted commas, severe intellectual disabilities, psychiatric problems and physical issues to therefore hit their woke DEI target. So in other words, recruiting people with psychological and mental issues to tick DEI boxes. Just stay there for a second, Steve. Let's just recap on one of the things that Donald Trump had to say yesterday.
The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway.
I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level.
So, Steve, Donald Trump there kind of joining the dots, maybe making 2 and 2 equal 5.5. But he certainly has a point, doesn't he, that if the official policy of the Biden administration was, in his words, to hire people not just with psychological and mental disabilities, but also with hearing and vision impairment, I'm not sure how anyone can argue that those people are, in those conditions, conducive with being good air traffic controllers.
Well, and again, part of the Trump agenda is to make sure that we are hiring people in every job who are there because of what they can do, not because of what they are. And the whole focus of DEI is to overlook people who may be more talented, more capable, based on merit, in order to fit some, check some box. And as you point out, visual impairity, hearing impairity, running in an air traffic control spot is just nonsense and ludicrous. We don't know if the people that were in that air traffic control center were suffering from those kinds of disabilities, including this sort of emotional and mental instability that they were recruiting to the most high-stress job you could possibly have. But we will get more of those details. And we do know that some of the reporting is saying that it was understaffed. There was only one traffic controller when there should have been 2 in those spots. Why is that? Donald Trump's only been in office about a week. The Secretary of Transportation had literally been sworn in hours earlier. So the idea that some in the leftist media in the U.S. are trying to blame Trump or Sean Duffy, when it is the Buttigieg Transportation Secretary, Biden and Obama before him, who set the standard that failed miserably in this case.
Yeah, let's also remind ourselves of there's a clip that circulates social media and the internet of a chap by the name of Philip Washington, who was Biden's pick to run the FAA until he was questioned by Congress and senators on his aviation knowledge. And effectively, it was proven as part of those challenges, those questions in the House, that he knew nothing at all about aviation.
He didn't even know enough to make a paper airplane.
Yeah, so and as a consequence,
thank
goodness he decided to withdraw his nomination. But I mean that's an astonishing thing that the FAA that looks after airline safety in America, probably the busiest country and airspace on the planet, that they would seek to put somebody in charge of the FAA that literally knows nothing about aircraft and flying.
But that's not unusual. You look, it's
Steve, sorry, we're losing
the
you.
other than human services.
Sorry, Steve, I just lost you.
In every department.
Steve, sorry, just say that again. Sorry, we keep losing your line. There's a reception issue, I think. Just say that again if you can.
Yeah, the problem with the Biden administration is they put people in place throughout their administration who were not capable of doing the job, whether or not their cabinet picks or sub-cabinet picks were DEI hires or not. They were certainly filling the government and filling key positions, whether it was the FAA, whether it was in health and other issues, with people who should not have been in those positions.
Yeah. So, look, we don't know exactly what the cause of this tragedy is. Donald Trump definitely has jumped on what many are saying is a bandwagon. Time will tell. I suspect there is an element of opportunism here on the part of Donald Trump. And yes, I suspect this will run and run and run now in terms of trying to point the finger of blame at, of course, anything that has the fingerprints of Biden and Obama on it. Steve Gill, former advisor to Clinton and Bush administrations, thank you very much indeed.